All right, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for joining us on this pleasant Thursday evening, just in time for some more D&D right here on Lionhead Gaming. And since it's Thursday, that means it's time for some more Song of Rapture, as DM'd by Monsieur Omen. Monsieur Omen, I pass it over to you.
So when we last left our valiant vanguard, they had found themselves at the end of a surprising battle after a twist of events had found them in a location not quite where they expected to be. But how did they get to this situation, and maybe what just transpired maybe moments before all this happened, is not my story to tell. So as usual, can someone tell me what happened on last episode of the Song of Rapture? Anyone who might want some DM inspiration?
Yes. Previously on Song of Rapture, it was the last day of the Monarch Festival, and everyone in the Valiant Vanguard were enjoying the final festivities. Well, some of them were. Others were preparing for their trip to Illyria, which is Persephone's homeland, the Elven Kingdom of Illyria. Throughout the day, Persephone had given her brother a good dream, allowing him to travel outside of home for once in, well, the safety of Dreamland, so that he can enjoy the festivities in Oakwell for himself. Samantha, not needing any sleep, realized the dragon skull that was promised to be delivered to the Guildhall didn't make it there. So she did a little bit of sleuthing on her own and found out that it was delivered instead to the Heartwood Sanctum, a church of Sylvanas. And when she went over there, turns out that there was someone waiting for her, a voice that she had heard once before. This creature by the name of Raziel, a winged serpent, asked for her help to join forces, as it were, so that they could get their wings back from, it seems, whatever it is these cultists are worshipping. And Samantha agreed, wanting a new companion to act as eyes and ears where she could not. And that is how Samantha ended up getting a familiar of her own, just like Persephone has her butterfly, hummingbird, owl spirit, and Luna has her little spook that follows her around. Let's see. Tamara Khan ended up meeting with Ciri Greystone to have a little bit of a fun spar outside of the Guildhall before going off to meet with Mary Joy Revelry to fill her in on what it is that we were going to do next. And he had to be a little more subtle with the way he worded things. See, Persephone doesn't want anyone to know that she is a runaway noble, so Tamara Khan had to simply tell her that there was trouble in the Elven lands that they were going to take care of. And as for the investigation that the Board of Trade from Broken Ridge was going through, they'll have to look into that when they get back. Being very careful not to mention that they actually know who did it and that they need a cover for her. Speaking of which, Swift Hollow went to her friend Gizmo to tell him that he needs to pack his bags because they are leaving that night because he is a wanted man in Broken Ridge. And they're going to hide him in Elvenland for a while. After making sure that Persephone could get a place for him in Inalin, where he wouldn't be surrounded by nobility and could lie low, they packed their bags and all met up at the Guildhall, which was now filled with adventurers, just kindly good doers that came to Oakwell, hearing about the Valiant Vanguard Guildhall and not really knowing why it was a mess and half destroyed, but lending a hand to help. Samantha and Coldor was able to take quick stock of who it is that was there to make note of what it is to do with them later. Of course, these adventurers weren't promised a position in the guild, but they were hoping by helping with the reconstruction, they would be at the top of the list. As the day was coming to a close, Persephone gathered all of her friends back to the Guildhall, where she opened a portal in the middle of a tree, where they were to jump in and go all the way to her home city. Except that's not what happened. Some force of magic had pulled them out of their Fey transport and into the middle of a very lively forest where they were surrounded by these creatures made of mushroom that surrounded Bran and was attracted to his blood. These large mushroom men trying to attack him, and even though Persephone said that they should retreat, they were quickly overwhelmed and they had no other choice but to stay and fight. Thankfully, Luna with her magic, Samantha with her own, Quildor with his martial prowess, and Tamar Khan with his great speed were able to start picking these creatures off one by one. The large crowd of mushrooms that surrounded Quildor were immediately eviscerated, and all was left were the little red caps that were eager to feast upon their blood as they were getting injured. Persephone, wanting no more part of it, was able to call upon the spirits of nature to bend at her will, sort of in a wrathful way. Rocks were being thrown, branches were swinging down, just clobbering these red caps, and one of them in particular she was able to restrain with vines and ask that they be left alone. He agreed. And once everything was quiet, they had to figure out exactly where they were and what was going on. Using Luna's magic carpet, her, Persephone, and Samantha were able to go high above the trees, where Persephone was able to see that, thankfully, they were in Illyria, and not the Feywilds. But the trees were almost as tall as mountains, and they were very, very colorful, despite the fact that it was the middle of spring. And she could tell that something was wrong. Lots of Fey magic was flowing between the trees and almost threading its way through the very forest, which means Illyria was in disarray, and it was recent, since a month ago when she asked, everything seemed fine. With the sun down and knowing that they were far from her home, Persephone had an idea, that her teacher's cabin was nearby. So with the help of a dryad friend, they were able to navigate this forever moving and very lively forest until they came upon the cabin of Erisov, the very man that taught Persephone how to be the druid that she is today. What is it that's going on in Illyria, and if they'll be able to make it back to Inulin, well, the next day, depends on what we'll find out here tonight. So join us as we write another verse in Song of Rapture.
Well done, Mel. Give yourself some DM inspiration. Alrighty. As indeed, when we last left our valiant vanguard at the heels of that great battle, now once lost, but thanks to Persephone's guidance to these now strange, magically twisted woods, we find our adventurers arriving at something of a sanctuary. In the depths of this night, in the middle of this elven wood, where it seems like the air was filled with the soft singing of these strange fairy creatures, the call of night sort of spreading out, this ominous feeling that you were in the middle of a dangerous and lost territory. All of that has slowly but surely seemed to fade. The sounds of nature have been quietly resuming themselves in night, the hooting of owls, the crackling of branches. It sounds less like you're in this otherworldly place and more like you're back in the forest where you were taught, Persephone. As coming through these trees, you can watch these large, thick structures become a bit more controlled in shape. Still large compared to the trees that others would expect in Mobia. Still towering in height, but not quite as wild and untamed. Until you come across a thick base of a tree, one of them that seems to have been rounded by the use of magic or maybe some simple construction, and at the heart of which, sort of dimly lit by what looks to be the soft glow of a strangely like stone-made lantern, as well as the lights of what look to be windows, is the entrance to a very familiar place. A place where you have spent much time outside of the city, at least one of these places outside of the city, having learned the druidic ways from an old friend. As the rest of you come up maybe about 150 feet before it finally comes into view, as you find yourself in something of what can only be called a sanctuary in the middle of these woods.
Okay. If anyone's going to know what exactly is going on here, it's going to be Erisov. After all, he's like a guardian in this portion of the woods. So Persephone's going to walk up to the door and start knocking. Really fast.
Okay. Just walking up, tiny little fist rapping against the door. You can hear around a sudden shift of life as you can see creatures up like around the corner. You can see some of them large, like boars and the like. Even maybe off in the distance, some predatory eyes of what look to be like wolves or even strange felines like panthers all around. But you know, in this area, there is never any trouble. The life in this place blooms quite prominently. There are animals constantly around every corner, but wherever Arisov resides, there's always this, I guess, sort of pull towards kindness. All things here are peaceful and gentle. Even some of the creatures crawling above these you almost seem like a combination of both mammal and bird, these cats with wings strapped to their backs, sort of prowling almost predatorily. But you know that as they approach some of you, a simple hand reached out towards them, they would accept the affection. As indeed, you knock on the door, there's a few moments of quiet before you hear the similar sound, a heavy thudding, as massive footsteps seem to shake the ground. God, stupid looking bodies, god damn it. As massive footsteps start to shake the ground, almost warning of great power before the door seems to pull open, and his hair hanging somewhat ragged from his face, eyes held down, weighed down almost by these great heaving bags, and preceding himself with a heavy air rattling, almost thunderous in its nature, yawn, is a deep, dark, green-skinned individual that some of you have seen these types of creatures in the world. They're kind of far-flung and hidden all across of mostly Hearth. Very rare to find in Mobia, more prominent in these parts. Supposedly giant-kin, these men who stand over 8 to 10 feet tall, broad-shouldered, well-muscled, powerful, imposing individuals, but supposedly most carry an aura of peace. They like to keep their privacy. As this Furbolg answers the door, shoulders brushing against the entrance as he barely fits through, letting out this deep and bellowing yawn.
I'm so sorry to come here in the middle of the night, but I'm not sure if you noticed, the entire Illyrian forest is kind of infested with wild fey magic.
As this large man, almost beast, sort of lurches his head out, his ears sort of like twitch a little bit. You can see flakes of snow-like hair falling from them, looking outside in the night. This is quite the hour to be hopping into dreams, little flower. I don't know why I'm having one in such darkness. Oh, you've brought company with you this time. Very well. Come in. I'll fix us some tea. As he turns and lurches his way back into this doorway. And as he moves away from the entrance, you'd all see this sort of glow of warm golden light that's almost somewhat blinding as he walks inside. You can get soft features of it looks like a chair to the edge of a table, a very small interior as he enters. But if you were to follow him inside, you'd find the inside is surprisingly much larger than the exterior, where you would once expect to find maybe shoulder to shoulder, standing, even sitting, a small hut with a large man living inside. Instead, you find quite the breadth of room. You'd expect maybe, say, 30 by 30 feet. Not as much as one would expect from a large home, but for the size of this place, for how much you would expect to be carved into the tree, and the size of the door, the shapes and magnitude, everything, it seems sort of out of whack. Clearly the touch of magic. As the interior is this long panels of wood that rise up from the ground across the walls. You can see what look to be small, almost handmade portraits and drawings of charcoal and paper seem to be lining the walls. Lots of them written in a language possibly Sylvan, more often lost to another language that only Persephone would understand, that of Druidic. Small drawings look to be whether from the hands of children or something else that seem to line the walls. Large table forming up from the wooden ground, long enough to seat probably twice as many of you, and a number of chairs that seems to, as you pull one aside, seems to sort of replicate itself from the wood itself, almost like a conveyor belt of chairs. Whether it's magic or just some sort of strange trick of the eye or illusion, hard to say, but it seems like these lodgings are just accommodating enough. As assuming the party files in, you can walk inside and smell this sort of warmth of a plant-based drink, as it seems like tea is already being brewed.
Oh, no. This isn't a dream. As much as I enjoy our dream chats, this is the waking world, and I never come in so late, but You see, we were transporting through a tree. I was trying to get home, and then I felt a really big jolt, and then we were pulled out, and then ended up in the middle of the forest instead. And I felt that when I was in the dream realm last night, and I thought, well, maybe that was just kind of a little bit of weird, because there are other people that can do some dream walking, and instead, it seems that it could be affecting all of Illyria.
Are these your friends, Persephone?
This is the Valiant Vanguard. This is Samantha and Luna and Quildor and Swift Hollow and Tamar Khan, and that's Swift Hollow's friend Gizmo, and this is Luna's friend Bran. And this is Spirit, as I take the little butterfly off from my hair.
As you see his eyes softly blinking as all this information's pouring, I guess what you could say, across him, as he's just sort of smiling at all these strange faces entering his home. Sort of like as you name them off, Persephone, he gives you like a soft nod and smiles to each person, and then finally turns back to you. Are you sure this is not a dream? Your friends aren't talking. This seems a little strange.
I didn't really feel like interrupting. She kind of rambles. I'm sure you know.
Typically talks for the both of us rather quickly. I'm curious if we're dreaming either.
Well, there we are. Come, everyone, take a seat. It is late, and if this was not a dream, well, your bodies must be weary from this travel of yours. Especially some of you. Seems you've taken some wounds. Allow me to tend to them. As he would gently seat some of you guys down, pulling out a chair that seems to again reappear, another one next to it. And as he'd walk by, some of you guys finding some seating or comfort, he'd like roll a hand across your body. It's a gentle touch. Seemed like a moment of great weight as this massive palm presses against you and pulls away, as there's this sort of remnant feeling of warmth, like the comforting touch of a friend that seems to emanate across the body. The aches of wounds from heavy iron boots and the sharp edges of sickles and hooks seem to slowly fade. Even Bran just sort of like slumps into his chair, as it seems like just with touches of healing magic, your wounds have subsided and the pain is nulled.
We ran into some red caps and some really, really, really big mushroom humanoid type creatures.
Oh yes, the myconids. They are generally peaceful people unless disturbed.
Yeah,
Pushed
well,
to act if ever responded to, whether violence or peace. No,
yeah.
I take it by your expression. It was not a happy ending for them. Unfortunate. Nevertheless, you say your magic. It failed. What sort of magic were you using? Tell me about this. As he seats himself into a chair that seems way too small for him. You can hear the wood squeak and the legs bend as his body sort of squishes down on top of it, but nevertheless, it does not break.
Well, it's like a teleportation magic of sorts, except instead of going from one place to another in a poof, it's more like going one place to another as if you're flying through the veil itself. See, all I have to do is touch a tree, think of where I want to go, another tree. In this case, it was supposed to be the crystal tree in the middle of Vinland. And then the tree opens up like a crystal cavern, and you walk through, and then you walk out on the other side. But that didn't happen. It was almost as if something pulled us out.
Wish to arrive in one place, and you arrive in another. Sounds as if your magic did not fail, it was simply redirect. It is not surprising considering the recent developments in this great forest. The playful antics of the Fey life. I'm sure you felt it. Great and powerful magic. It pulls on the weave, the fabric of magic that flows through all things in this world. The stronger the pull, the more influence it has on its surroundings. But with the surprising rise in Fey life, their magic is often wild
unpredictable, chaotic. With such strong pulls on the weave, there's a high likelihood that that chaos may pull back. Cause, well, I suppose in this case, a playful misdirection. Persephone has told me about you in letters I have finally had time to read. The lot of you also use such magic. I assume you experienced a similar sensation. Hopefully nothing too harmful.
No, I was able to at least keep my magic under control when it started.
Very good. It is not an easy task to fight against the forces of playful chaos. But I believe this might be due to the recent budding of these playful little spirits in our world. Wherever the Fae gather, their magic follows them. As magical creatures are, it is their nature. They bring that nature with them. Curious. Even my own magic at times has failed. Though I found it only truly pulls when the magic is strong. Simple parlor tricks and the like.
He sort of waves his hand. You can feel like a soft gust blow across the table.
Beginner magic and that of more intermediate uses. It does not strong enough to enact such chaos. But the stronger the magic is, the more likely it is to suffer, possibly misfire, or perhaps even find new strength in its casting. But it is unreliable, unless one possesses such capability as dark hair. Luna, you must be Luna. Such capability as Luna to overcome such force. But I must ask you, Persephone, you've said you've returned to Innerlin. The wedding is still quite some time away. Have you returned to speak with your family? To reunite? To say what was left unsaid?
That's probably an inevitability once I go back home. In reality, I am still very concerned about this wedding. It's not what Rael wants. It's the result of my father's desperation and blindness to what's actually happening, and well, I learned that Raoul took on a lot of work after I left home so that I can continue to travel and be free, and I need to return the favor. Marrying this Fae Queen, as wonderful as people think it might be, it's him just being resigned to a prison for himself. That's not right. He deserves to have the same kind of happiness that I've had. And I'm a little worried about who it is that he's marrying. I'm very suspicious. I don't think she has very positive intentions.
It's hard to say. To marry a Fae Queen, history has proven to be a troublesome act. The Fae are, well, capricious creatures, even at their most noble. They are prone to change, whether for better or for worse. And mortals are quite slow to the act, quite incapable of adapting at times. A sudden change of nature might result in catastrophe, but I have heard only kind things from this summer matron. Titania, though she has yet to truly make an appearance in these woods, is sung about through the day. Her praises are hummed through the trees of these wandering spirits. Even those of a more foul and malicious nature have nothing but kind things to say.
So, there's no dissenting opinion about Queen Titania.
It seems that every creature who crosses her path can't help but love her. It is the nature of a Fey Queen.
That
Sounds
makes
like
me even more
charming
suspicious.
magic.
The last time we came across a creature that everybody loved and adored and had nothing bad to say about her turned out to be very bad. Very bad.
It is possible. It is possible that she is using such magic to twist the minds of others. But I cannot say for certain of her intentions. After all, the Fae are magical creatures. Some are, well, their actions may seem dark. Their, I suppose, what's the word, execution of such manner might seem malicious, but most cannot help it. A powerful Fae Queen who all love may simply make all love her, whether she intends it or not. But I understand your concern. It is a concern for the safety of your brother, especially after all the trials and tribulations that you have suffered through on your great and wondrous journey. I do wonder, though, although none may speak ill of the Summer Queen herself, and though she has yet to make an appearance in this world, there has been some, well, word of rabble-rousing in the city that you hail from. In her place, children, they call her. Some spoke of wondrous things, others, well, the mischievous ways of Fae often lean towards mishaps and injury. It seems her heralds have made themselves known in Inalin, made themselves a place, made themselves, there's a possibly a proper word for this, celebrity. Strange word, not often used.
Sounds like your kind of place, Tamar.
Tamar. What is
At your
a
service.
what is a strange sounding name? As he sort of lurches and looks you over. There across your body. Not a tail between. You do not hail from here, do you?
Contradicted as it were. It's American, actually. No. My kind. We are this folk. Some of us older than others, but coming from the place of maybe what you speak of. Although I don't really know much about Titania. I come from the Immortal Kingdom. My father, maybe you know of him. The Monkey King.
Oh, I've only heard tales of him through the whispering in the trees. It is not often you would meet a beast man in person. Your kind, I hear they hail from a great and high-reaching mountain. Is it true? What
In
wondrous
fact,
sights you might see there.
the mountain and the valley below. All that is kept safe in the Immortal Kingdom. Well, it is surprising you are the first one that have actually heard of this story upon the prime material. Although, maybe I've not been hanging out with the right folks.
Edisov taught me most of what I know about Fae. It's normal for him to know a lot of their tales.
This forest, it whispers. The spirits of the Fae congregate here. The veil is thinned, and those who wish to venture forth to a world that moves, perhaps to some faster, perhaps to some slower, perhaps to some a sense of normality and stagnation required in this ever-changing Feywild. They circle around here like animals at times, some more lost than others. I see myself as my teacher taught me before, to be a shepherd of such spirits. And from them I've learned many things, both of this world and many others. Though I have never truly seen the Feywild myself, it would be a dream to go there. And that is why I often find myself traveling in the dream.
It is a shame. For a moment there, I thought you were maybe a visitor of my home.
Mm.
The skin, you almost remind me of some of the more colorful beast folk back home. With your size, I almost took you as a bearman at first.
I have heard tale that more of my kind reside within the Feywild. Some say they hailed from their time long past. It would not surprise me if such heritage would draw me there. Perhaps it is where my connection comes from. But alas, I am far from reaching it. Perhaps one day, though, when peace has been brought here. But I believe peace will not return to this forest for quite some time. As the hour draws and the days pass, this veil grows thinner and thinner. The Fae who already reside within these woods grow stronger, greater in number, and in the coming days more chaotic and erratic. It seems as if this forest is becoming less, I suppose, hearth, and more Feywild by the day. Likely the cause of whatever antics those wonderful little elves are performing in the north.
So her kids are already here.
Indeed.
Do you know how? I know Father was trying to get a bridge created, but if Queen Titania's not here, then they had to have crossed through another way, right?
Great and powerful things take great and powerful magic to pull through the veil. Although those of weaker power, as you've seen yourself with the Redcaps, they can pull themselves through quite easily now. The fabric you see as his fingers sort of pull out in the air, another gust of wind pulls from them, and from the tips of his fingers seem to be these long green threads that sort of linger like thin feathered sinews on the air, sort of linger and float, appear before him. As the veil thins, the holes grow greater. The magic required to step through becomes lessened, until those who have the capability of doing so, finding the right spot, like a hole in a sweater, they simply peek their way through, bend the fabric, and find themselves here. Whatever powerful magic is being used to open a hole between the worlds is opening holes all across this forest. And all of it seems to be surrounding your little city. How they got here, I assume, in the same way that they've been experimenting with. In time, they'll likely be able to bring the Summer Queen here, and she will achieve or receive many adoring fans.
So we can't bring this forest back to a sense of normalcy without dissuading your elves.
What confuses me is that I knew this entire thing was just for your father, so that he didn't have to lose every single family member before he passes, but how is the rest of the council taking this? It seems like changing the entire forest seems like a bit much for one future councilman.
It might be bigger than that. I mean, wasn't the last union between a Fey noble and a mortal creature is what changed the very fabric of magic within this forest? Their union could be more than just having a council member. It could be potential for what they think is another magical revolution.
Ah, the best part of politics. Politics for power.
I thought you meant revolutions.
Hmm. They've already been embarrassed once with the loss of their better half. Would not be surprised if they were consolidating forces. Perhaps gaining the allyship of this Summer Queen and her children.
I truly do not understand the inner workings of politics. I'm afraid I have no wisdom to offer. I could perhaps try to see into their hearts and understand, but such things are beyond me. I'm an old man who watches a forest and drinks his tea.
It's better this way, trust me.
It's quite peaceful, say.
If this is the case, though, maybe more than just your father that we have to worry about.
Oh, I'm sure. I had no illusions about what was going to happen when I come there. I knew that I was going to have trouble with Father, but I also knew I was going to get pushback from the entire council. Father isn't just doing this wedding for himself. He's been in meetings with the council. This isn't a coincidence. They meet every 10 years to discuss the future of Illyria for the next decade. This union with Rael is not just so that he can have a seat upon the council, it's probably to do something that benefits Illyria, or what they think is going to benefit Illyria.
It very well could. It could benefit Illyria at the expense of everyone else, but everyone else isn't Illyria. I've seen crazier things done for less.
Is there a dark room?
In this big little hut.
Yeah, you have like a closet.
Yes, I do not keep much inside. As you would turn to look, and there is like strangely like small, even like at your height, comes up to like your head would like barely brush against the bottom side of the frame. This large rounded door.
You do not keep much in there, but it is enough space. Do you require privacy?
Not so much privacy, just a dark room away from light. Just gonna start walking towards them.
Of course.
Please don't break anything in there.
I'm not gonna touch anything.
Okay, just making sure.
Just open up the door, open inside, you'd see, it looks like there's some tufts of maybe hay or some old grass that's sort of been scattered across the ground. Looks like it could just use a good sweep, but otherwise, it looks like it's just a small storage space that, I guess given the strange magical properties of this hut, storage space is not necessarily necessary, but it exists.
I'm gonna go in, close the door, kind of sit down in a fetal position, and start to move to the Shadowfell.
She is much kinder than I expected her to be from your letters.
She softened up over the last year.
Good. I assume you've given her many good dreams to help with that.
I'm not deaf in here, I can hear you.
She didn't quite like the dream visits from me.
Understandable.
All right. As you spend about an hour, I think, inside the closet. You guys want to do anything else while you're sitting around for Luna to go in the closet? You just have some tea laid out, food.
I just want to ask him how long it's been this way for. We talked like a month ago, right?
Of course.
It's recent.
Last we spoke, it was merely teeming at the edges. I had told you the forest was singing the songs of Fae. It was growing stronger in its presence, but now it has grown quite exponential. Of course, the larger a whole becomes, the more that appear, the number increases greater and greater over time. But I assume in time it shall become truly encompassed, enveloped, perhaps even swallowed by the Fey life, until the Feywild extends into this world. Perhaps I won't need to visit it. It will come visiting me.
Oh God. That there was a song when we were coming here. It was about like a fairy queen in like a flower jail. Have you heard it? Is that about Titania? It sounded kind of sad.
Very similar, but not quite. It is a song that's sung when the sun has set, when the wind blows and the choirs sing through the trees. It is a song about another queen, perhaps one as old as Titania, perhaps one that resides in the shadow of her son. It is an old, old tune. It tells the story, at least hints at one, of a queen known as Athronus, the scorned maelstrom. Now known as, what is it now? The Queen of Air and Darkness. She was told to be wise, ancient, and beautiful, but after a great time had passed, after she suffered great pain at the hands of a mortal, her heart was broken so greatly that even her form fell apart. She became nothing but the calls and sadness that blow through the wind in a great chorus to this day, when the night has fallen. Very strange.
Queen Athronus, you said.
Indeed.
Is she the other noble? The one who absconded with a mortal before?
Could possibly be. I do not know the times of these tales, and such powerful beings live for quite some time.
Do we
Any
recognize the
tales
name?
of her children?
The name? No.
Oh, is it not?
Oh no, I'm talking Esther Kohler.
Yep.
The names don't sound familiar.
What about to me?
Kind of, yeah. You think you've heard it maybe once from, someone you crossed paths with quite some time ago.
Oh my god! I dated her son.
That one. I'm breaking my silence over this.
Oh god, I gotta put Peter up.
So quiet.
Don't worry, I'm tired.
I'm sorry.
Whoops, I've been going to bed early and waking up early.
What a sucker.
Yeah, what a sucker.
Sleep for the week.
I'm sorry, but did you say you dated? That's quite exciting. Congratulations, Persephone.
Yeah, it was great until it wasn't. Yeah, he mentioned his mother was kind of controlling and paranoid. I mean, kind of similarly to my father. He mentioned that his father went missing when he was young. And that's part of why she was the way that she was.
So she isn't just wind, then.
You
It's
think
in
she has been
conflict
returned to
with the
form?
legend. Well, she came and collected her son, like you said.
She
Very
she didn't come here. She gave him permission to visit temporarily so that he could join one of his pixies for this coming of spring celebration. And that's when he invited me to go back with him because he was only supposed to be here for Spring Awakening and then go back home. And then when I told him no, he had to go back home and then not come back here.
Got it.
The story says, from long past, unlike most great fae, when they lose their life, when their power fades, the great wild chaos of their nature returns them to form. While one spirit might lose its form, broken in battle, or simply withered in age, time would pass, and the spirit would be reborn anew. But the tales of the Queen of Air and Darkness say that she never truly returned. If you met a son of a Thronus who still has form, it makes me wonder what great mystery lies there. Is it truly that of Thronus? Perhaps she's returned to form. Interesting. Wonderful. More
wouldn't-
stories to discover.
Oh my god. What if she did return to form? What does that mean in all of this? Or is it just completely disconnected and just a terrible coincidence?
Oh, it'd be a terrible coincidence. It is what
Well,
it is until it isn't.
Okay,
is
well
it
here's
not?
why it would be terrible for me, okay? Because if Queen Thronus is the opposite of Queen Titania and they're informed, I don't know. I'm just worried about Nimini's coming back and me running into him is all.
Yeah, you run into exes all the time. Don't worry about it.
What?
The
I
Fae is
don't.
merging into the prime material, Persephone. Seems that might be an inevitability for you.
Possibly.
If
Time.
anything, perhaps a stroll with your Fey Prince would be helpful for you.
Even be one and the same.
Did you not end on
He probably
agreeable
has
terms?
information.
I mean, it wasn't really agreeable. He wanted me to come back to the Feywilds with him. I told him no. He was upset about it. That was one of our biggest points of arguments in our short time together. And he was really emotional. Peleus even called him unstable, and the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to realize that maybe he was right. I've changed a lot in the last year. I don't know how much he's changed, but if he's still as emotional as he was when I knew him, I don't know. I've moved on. I'd like to think that he did, but what if he didn't?
Who
He's
cares
dangerous.
if he did or did not?
Yeah,
It's
you
you
have all
that
of
gets
us.
to decide.
Well, I'm not worried about him tricking me on getting back with him. I just don't want it to be uncomfortable.
Oh, it will be uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's sort of unavoidable.
Great.
If he hasn't, moved on or is being emotional about it.
Persephone, I think you excel in uncomfortable situations. You always come out on the other side.
You have quite reassuring friends, Persephone.
I do.
Are you going to be alright? I have more tea for you if you require.
Yes, please, more tea.
Very well.
Take my
As
Do you have something stronger, Arizolf?
I have very dark tea.
Yeah, not
I think she means
tea, but-
liquor.
Yeah, is
I
anything
do not.
overtly sweet to you then?
I suppose I might have something, although I myself only partake with honey. It is a mild sweetness, and, well, I try to keep myself at the center of all the ever-changing chaos. Such as honey is at the center of ever-changing flavor.
As he'll come back with what looks to be a tray, after some time, steaming small biscuits. They look like they're just bread biscuits, but they're just covered in a glaze of honey.
Yeah, that'll work.
Quite a sweet tooth on this one.
Indeed.
indulgence.
Indulgence for the sake of indulgence.
As time would pass, and within the dark closet, the soft sounds of rabble rousing and this chortling of a friend realizing a great truth would slowly but surely fade away, Luna, and eventually you're left in this shadow that seems to completely consume you until all sound seems to finally fade away, and you're left in the darkness where, after maybe about a minute or so, the world sort of just shifts. You feel a soft, cool breeze across your body, and your eyes open. And you're no longer inside a closet. You're no longer inside a home. Your back is resting against this cold, wet, almost like mossy feeling surface as you turn around and you find yourself this time seated with your back against it looks like a tall, decrepit tree. Not wide and thick at its base like this one, but instead thin and tall, as if all the life had been sucked out of it, as it does with the trees around you, fairly spaced apart, maybe about 10, 15 feet or so between each great height. As you look around, you can hear the soft, like, I guess almost like a chime of wood, the crackling and clattering of some strange soundless breeze running through the air and shaking these leafless, dried trees against each other. Almost sounds like the rattling of bones as you're in the center of this decrepit looking forest, a pale reflection of the abounding life that you were once surrounded by. Is there anything you're wanting to look for, particularly wanting to do?
I'm gonna start calling out, see if I could. He said that there were face spirits just kind of wandering around the forest. I don't know if I can attract any of them, but I know I'm not in the Feywild. So if there's any Fey spirits in the Shadowfell.
Give me a so you're just calling out like audibly, just trying to summon something effectively.
Yeah, basically.
Cool. All right. As you call out to the wild, again, just hearing the soft sounds of what sound like rattling bones or wooden chimes all around you. It doesn't sound gentle, rhythmic, melodic, or even musical in any way. It just sounds like this sort of ear rattling rattle. As give me a perception check. Ooh. As this cacophonous sound seems to spread throughout this decayed forest, you maybe hear the sound of one of these branches suddenly cracking or snapping in the distance. You try to locate, is that a creature moving? Is it something approaching? But there's nothing there. Until you feel this sudden, like as you're standing looking around, this puff of cold, hot for a moment, filled with some strange form of life, before icy cold air rush across your neck. And you feel it again as you realize there's something standing just inches away, breath pouring across your body. You hear this soft, almost inaudible, but still ragged voice calling out to you, or whispering rather to you.
You are lost. Shall you be found?
Found by what exactly?
The lost.
As you can hear that rattling sound growing louder in your ear until you realize it's not just the branches you've been hearing in this plane. Just next to your ear for a moment, the slight shift in the air. You look to see nothing, but as the wisp of wind moves past, you could see the slightest, the faintest outline, as if completely transparent, of a long, distended claw. As around the edges of other trees, you can see the same crackling, rattling sound that runs through them as these thick cut lines begin to drag against their edges, as you'd realize you're not alone in this forest. As this thing starts breathing heavier.
Shall you join us?
Depends. What are you offering?
Life eternal. Life unseen. Life of skulking, walking, tracking. I will take what is yours, what I lack, what I seek.
As you feel this soft, like sort of needle like tear tug at the edge of your face.
I attempt to like smack whatever that is away. Look, I just need information. Can you give me information? If not, go away.
Just a drop. Just a moment of clarity, of visibility.
As you see, like from the tip of this finger, as you smack it away, there's a sharp little tug. As you can see, this tiny little, almost like a speck of what would be amber, but it said black, almost like ink. A touch of your strange ethereal form lingers on the tip of his claw and runs down what looks to be just a long, distended finger down to its hand until it goes down to the wrist and stops. And you can see it almost turn back to itself as it seems to be admiring this. I guess the only thing you could say is its appearance. The only, I guess, giveaway of an appearance that it seems to be just sort of holding close to what you can only consider to be a face longingly.
Face, eyes, mouth, a form that can be seen. Grant me this, and secrets shall be yours.
How much of myself would I have to give to you?
A moment. Just a taste.
No. I think I'm done here. So I'm going to snap my finger and release my hold on this place and travel back to my body.
All right. As you pull yourself away, you can see the drip start to fade away as it turns back towards you.
Then you shall give it.
As the moment this thing starts reeling back and throwing what seems to be one thing considered to be a claw in your direction, the magic fades away as you appear back in the closet.
That's when I kind of stand back up and open the door. All right, I'm done.
Did you find what you are looking for?
Unfortunately, not. I didn't find any information where I went, but I'll tell you guys later.
Oh, quite sorry. I will stock that closet next time.
Oh, no, I wasn't. Never mind. You do you.
All right.
Should we get some rest? We have a few days' travel, do we not, Persephone?
Unfortunately, yeah, a few days.
And if these woods are contaminated the way that we've noticed, may not be the easiest of travel.
Indeed, these woods are quite unpredictable at times, but they are mine to watch. If you wish, I can do my best to shepherd you through them,
Yes,
giving you moments of peace.
I'd very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, it is my role, after all, given to me by my master, his master before him. We are shepherds of these woods. All creatures within are our flock. But indeed, though your wounds have been tended, in time the magic will likely fade and the ache will return. I suggest you all get some rest. I do not have much lodgings for sleep. I have a bed, but it may fit 4 of you, but no more than that. Rest of you are safe to rest here or within the grounds. I assure you the wildlife within may seem dangerous, but only friends are invited here. Only kind creatures reside.
I will meditate outside.
Very well.
As yeah, and with that, you guys would be given the evening to rest up. If there's anything you guys want to do.
When is Swift? When is Swift Hollow doing her trance?
Spatala usually trances on third and fourth watch because she likes staying up. She's used to staying up late.
Horse is gonna stay up for first watch.
I'll take a second, why not?
You all know me.
Oh yeah, you never sleep.
You want to see something neat, Persephone?
Always.
Raziel, show your true form, would you?
As you see this snake sort of unfurl itself from within Samantha's person, from whether around her neck or on her wrist, makes it get kind of lost, all the snakes gathering together. You'd see one sort of like slide off her shoulder, Persephone sort of leaning itself, almost like as if it's to like reach out and wrap around your arm or find a new perch. But as it does, it sort of plops itself off as it starts to fall. And from within, you can see sort of these scales sort of shimmer in color. It goes from like a deep emerald green to like a turquoise in form. And then from like a flurry, it look like almost like feathers come out of it as if it were a burst pillow. They seem to unfurl and turning these long, thin appendages covered in these tufts of beautiful looking feathers as this beast sort of takes wing and flaps and sort of rises back up over Samantha's shoulder.
I knew you'd be mystified by it.
Hi, I'm Persephone. What's your name? Does it talk? Do I need to talk like I talk to your hair?
I don't think so. Can you speak to her?
So sort of like flies in the air and you hear sort of echoing in your mind. Our bond in nature that allows us to speak. I can show my kindness. I can try my best to whisper words to her, but they will not be heard. Perhaps felt, perhaps influence taken, but not truly heard.
You, Samantha, sort of rub at her throat for a moment. I'll do my best to pass along the message, I suppose. He can talk to me, to my mind, but not to you, it seems.
Like spirit.
Yes, quite similar, I believe.
Did you get this little friend?
It seemed like he had been keeping an eye on me, oddly enough, for quite some time. He was the one responsible for the dragon skull being misplaced, if only for a moment. I sort of just tap him on the back of the head. Little celestial guardian, it seems, or another set of eyes. One who has a vested interest in that cold business out east. Apparently, that which I have ire with, Raziel does as well.
Is it because they're worshiping like a winged serpent and Raziel? Raziel is a winged serpent? Is he what the cult is worshiping?
She thinks of me a god. Should tell her to start worshipping me now. Perhaps she will.
He says she thinks of me a god. Perhaps you should start worshipping him.
No. I don't know, I didn't
Advisor.
an advisor.
A hand out for Raziel to return to me.
As he sort of lands base of his body around your wrist, wraps itself up your forearm, sort of slithering up, looking between her and then up to you. See, like again, sort of lets out the soft little hiss that echoes words in the back of your mind. What are you going to tell her?
When I deem it necessary.
Keeper of secrets. Seems the beast does not stray far. And so it goes back to your shoulder.
I learned well. Enough. And slide the tray of biscuits over to myself and just keep adding honey to them and just munching.
Okay. So you guys seem to be taking watches inside, outside. You do have the luxury of a sanctuary inside if you just want to sleep inside, but otherwise you can take your watches, step outside. Seems like you
I
got.
want to talk to Swift Hollow.
Sure.
Wherever she is.
As everyone seems to be
scribbling in her
taking
journal.
some sleep. Gizmo takes his sleep inside the sanctuary of a home. Bran would be probably keeping kind of close to the door, but he'd definitely try to keep inside after taking some serious wounds.
So Tyler's doing what?
Swift Hollow is scribbling in a journal.
And the only one outside right now and awake is Quildor
Correct.
and Samantha. Okay.
Yeah, you see Samantha just sort of take out her scepter and seems to almost sort of pull out that strange sort of glowing ethereal book and open it up and just start reading. It seems sort of passively.
Persephone's just gonna sit herself down next to Swift Hollow and start talking to her and stuff. And hey, can I talk to you for a second?
Always. What's on your mind?
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about the siege on the Guildhall with the Hell's Hydras, and well, we had you and Tamar Khan take care of all of their mercenaries around the perimeter. And Tamar Khan said he knocked everyone out that he could, but there was a lot of corpses still outside.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
She just stops. She just lifts her pen momentarily, looking up from her journal. Because I killed them. And begins writing again.
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question. Why? I'm not going to chastise you or anything about it, Swift Hollow. I told you I want to understand you, and I meant that. So, when we wanted people to knock them out, why is it that you felt it was necessary that they be killed?
Lifts her pen again and looks up.
Are you like looking at her, or do you just look out at the distance?
Yeah, basically that. Just looking up from her journal. Because I didn't think it was necessary to keep them alive. They are our enemies, nonetheless.
Okay. Could you not, in the future? We're not... There are times when it is necessary to kill our enemies, yes. But that isn't all the time, and that isn't every enemy that we face. There are some that should be allowed a second chance, I guess you could call it. We didn't need to kill all of those guards just because they slighted us.
Scribble, scribble, scribble. Is there anything else?
I just wanted to make sure there was an understanding that if we don't have intent to kill, you don't need to kill. It's okay to let them go sometimes. And for the record, if we do need to kill anything, out of all of us here, well, with the exception of maybe Coldor, I would prefer it to be you.
So Hollow just, how would you say, flourishes her pen around. Stephanie, I need you to understand. And she just puts her quill down. I was not trained to be non-lethal.
Well, then we can give you that training. We can help you learn how to be.
She just stares at you
Lesson one?
unblinkingly.
Lesson one? Don't hit them with the pointy end.
She just stares at you for a couple more seconds before turning her attention back to the journal and starts scribbling again.
I'm serious, Swift Hollow. We've never had somebody like you in our group before. And we've finally got to a point where I feel like, as the Valiant Vanguard, we know who it is that we want to be. And killing for the sake of killing is not that.
So that was just quiet for a couple moments, and then pen stops.
Stab, 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 stab.
And then she starts writing again. Very well.
Okay. That went better than I thought it was gonna go.
Did you expect me to yell? Put up a fuss.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the norm whenever I tell people to not do the things that come naturally to them. Samantha and I had all sorts of fights when we first started adventuring. In fact, for a long time, that's all we ever did was argue over how it is we were going to do anything. Like, even with the centaurs, I know the stories make it sound like that we went in and we could talk to them and we brokered peace and the Blackburn Initiative got their road, but we argued. Even from the moment Blackburn offered us the contract, we couldn't really agree on how it is we wanted to handle it. Some of us thought them monsters, some of them thought them worth a chance, and it was a mess. So yeah, I kind of expected a lot more pushback. But it's refreshing that that's not what I got. And that you
It's not what?
actually... It's refreshing that that's not what I got here. It's, sometimes it feels like I have to keep proving myself to the group. Proving that I'm not just some silly little elf girl that thinks life is going to be all peace and happiness and rainbows, but I actually know that it's kind of serious and a bummer. I'm glad you take me seriously.
Writing slows.
You do take me seriously, right? You don't just tolerate me and also treat me like a child quietly. Okay.
Writing speeds up.
How did you... How... How did you become you, Swift Hollow? You mentioned before, I think you had an Illyrian name at one point. And you were trained specifically in the art of killing. How does that story unfold for someone?
Scribble, scribble, scribble. Sometimes we must conform to a new environment. And some of those times, it's human environments. As she like looks around. And then Swithella lowers her voice.
We're speaking in Sylvan. But Persephone's notice you look around. No one here can understand Sylvan. Quilder can, but he's outside. And Tamarcon is sleeping.
As Swithella turns to another page and then starts writing. And then she points to this page.
I look at
Just
the
taps
page.
it. And the page says, Swithella is because a human butchered my elf name. And it fit. And it stuck.
What was your elf name?
Oh! As she
You
also
don't have
writes
to.
that.
You
Fine.
don't have to. Persephone scooches closer to read.
As translate to Elven, it would be Daughter of Rain, but
It's pretty.
that's it in Elvish. Zvift Alo.
Zvistala. I like it. Did you like it? As somebody who kind of abandoned her name, I understand if it's weird for you. I haven't really
name's
met any
easier.
other elf.
It's easier on the tongue.
Easier on
That
the tongue, yeah.
barbaric tongue, nonetheless. As she just
can't-
tears up the page and hands it to you. I don't
Like
want that reminder in my book.
I fold it up and I put it in my pouch. Well, then it's safe with me. And I meant, I'm not like, I'm bad at lying. So when I did say that I'd rather you be, there's really no not awkward way to say this. I like the way you kill things. And I like the way you kill things because they're quick and it's clean. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but my magic is not that. Nature is... it's merciless and wrathful. Fire doesn't burn less just because I want to end a creature's life quickly. The creatures that I've had to put down are guaranteed to suffer until their dying breath. So I guess if I had your skills, I guess I would like them. And I kind of admire you for them. For that reason.
Hey, you know that?
What was that?
You're funny, you know that?
I guess. I mean, I like to think I'm funny. I like to...
chastising me. And now you say that you admire me.
Well, yeah, I meant it. Like... I spent a long time being upset at people for making the decisions that I wouldn't make, when in reality I should have spent more time just kind of understanding why it is they make those decisions. So, there will be times where maybe you think we should go about a plan in a way that I don't agree with. I still want to hear them out. I still want to understand why you want to take that approach. I'm not going to just outright tell you not to do it because it feels wrong.
Want another real reason why I killed all those guards? No, trained non-lethally, of course. I didn't think that they deserved to live.
Well, that I can understand. I don't think you were the only one who felt that way. Sometimes we need to do the right thing, and sometimes Well, not sometimes. The right thing isn't the easy thing to do. It requires
And,
us.
It's much easier to take someone down when you stab them with a dagger instead of using the handle.
I'm sure.
I feel like it's so easy. God, it's so easy to just stab
But for us to decide we're just going to take the lives of those who slight us, every creature that we engage with, even if they are retreating, that makes us murderers. And the Valiant Vanguard, we're not murderers. We're supposed to be heroes. So, we'll get there. We'll work on it. Like I said, step 1, don't hit with the pointy end.
I'll be sure to shoot my crossbow bolts backwards.
Maybe don't shoot with the crossbow. I mean, yes, if you're going to shoot with a crossbow, it's not really easy for you to not kill them. So I'm not going to yell at you if it can't be helped. I know there are times where it can't be helped. But just try. That's all I ask.
You're dangerous, Persephone, you know that?
Dangerous? Me?
Yeah,
I'm
with hollow nods.
How?
And she just points to that piece of paper that you have. You make me feel vulnerable.
Well, that's not a bad thing. That's okay. You put a hand on her shoulder. And then I pick a flower out from my hair and I put it behind her ear. Veres Threspi. As seasons change, so do we.
Good things must come to an end.
No. No, not with me. As I smile and get up, I'll leave you to your writing. And then I go outside to enjoy the night forest that I haven't been in quite some time.
Paula
Nice.
just takes the flower and puts it into her book as she writes one final line next to the flower before closing it. Beauty fades. That is why it is beautiful. And she just closes her book.
Both of you give yourself some demon inspiration and roll on D100. That was awesome.
Ah, I already have the inspo. Here's
roll
my
another
roll.
D100
I'm
then.
pretty sure I have
I have
it.
to roll another one.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh wait, are you roll another one?
If you already got it, roll another one.
Woohoo, I never use it.
Hey!
Nice. All right. Here, as indeed, seems like the first watch fades, second watch comes up. Whether you're just waking up from your nap inside or you've been camping outside, you would come to fruition. Who's all on second watch? Is that Tamarkan and? Is it just Tamarkan and Samantha?
Guess so.
Okay. You guys want to do anything in particular?
Do you want to keep watching here or keep watch outside? I feel like I want to enjoy
Climb a
the
tree.
surroundings. Hey, babe. It's
Yeah,
been
I
a
figured
while
as
since I've
much.
been able to be so free. We've been in deserts and plains and it's just everything but flat. I miss the mountains sometimes.
Reminiscent of home, I suppose.
Exactly. Let me know if anything happens, yes, and I do the same.
Of course. Do me a favor, if you don't mind. See if you can find a interesting, hopefully sweet-looking fruit out there while you're hopping around.
See what I can find.
Cannot forget the weird taste of that magical mango you summoned so long ago. It's intoxicating in its own way.
It's only a simple imitation.
Hmm.
Okay.
I will see what that comes on.
All right. Tamarkan exits the tree hut, wandering around into
Take my body with me.
a peaceful night. As what are you exactly doing, Tamarkan?
I am just sort of swinging around through the cheese, enjoying myself, just sort of looking around at seeing how much like the Feywild this really is. If it's just slightly touched, or if things are growing at a strange rate, if things are dying at a strange rate, if everything seems to be exasperated, like the Feywild. Although the jungles or the forests weren't particularly my home, certainly spent a decent amount of time there. And yeah, I'll keep an eye out for any succulent fruits that I might find along the way. See if there's any other wildlife that just looks a bit odd.
Sure. I would say compared to where you've been, because you've not only visited the Feywild itself, but when you first arrived in this world, you did a bit of traveling and you've sort of crossed, maybe not through this part exactly, but through these woods before. You'd say compared to the original woods of Inland, the Great Tall Forest, there's a lot of similarity, but it definitely, as someone who's been in here long before this place was ever truly long since touched by this magic, it definitely seems like it's taken on a great magical influence. It's not quite as abounding as the Feywild, which is sort of what makes it the Feywild, where you would find yourself on the ground in the Feywild. You would have no way of seeing the skies of any forest or jungle you walked in the same way as if you found yourself walking along the branch of one of the great trees of these forests or jungles, you'd probably long since ever see the ground. It'd be hidden under a veil of magical fog, purely due to the distance. But here, it seems as if this place is finding itself as what you could consider to be a perfect bridge between these worlds. The already great and fey-touched trees of the Illyrian forest have been exasperated. The branches have grown thick, almost the size of trees themselves. You could find yourself climbing up one of their heights, and then without needing quite the expertise you have in acrobatics of keeping your balance, you could walk along these tree branches from one tree to the next as if they were just pathways. Along the way, you'd see creatures of sort of immense size, something that you would expect to find in the Feywild. It's something that sort of stands out among it is its sort of abundance of great life energy. Not only do creatures, as you would know, would live longer by residing in this lively place, they also grow larger. And you would see the likes of boars that normally would probably grow decent size, the size of a well-grown man, maybe larger sometimes. You would see in the distance, in this night cast by some share of moonlight from the high topped canopies, boars the size of that one great one you sort of befriended in Oakwell, but a swarm of them running quietly through the woods, probably away from until you see it, away from what looks to be one of these great lavender skinned beasts. It looks like a deep, long panther running through the woods, but behind it seems to be trailing a set of tails. No, these tails are on its shoulder. And as you watch it chase these things, its form seems to vanish and reappear a few feet in front of it, as if to grow closer and closer to these things. As it seems like the Fey life, it's abounding here. The bones of this world still exist, but the meat that grows upon them has become more Fey than prime. As far as death goes, things decaying at a great rate, and strangely not. There are some places in the Feywild, some dips in that life energy where things are just going to die at an exasperated rate. Creatures that live and move fast also die quite quickly, but everything here just seems to be abound with life. Even trees that look like they should be dying are actually quite healthy. They have a thick layer of moss growing along them, and what should be leaves just now entering the sort of the beginning of fatigue of summer as it begins to approach look like they're in the depths of some great Fey spring. And within those treetops, you'd find some interesting looking fruit. They look like they're really, I guess you'd only really call them berries, but they're so large you could hold them in the palm of your hand like a tomato. And you'd recognize these as something that abounds in the Feywild. Even here at times with the use of magic, and with this magic abounding, it's quite prominent. This is a good berry. And only in the Feywild do they seem to maintain their magic, but here they're huge.
Interesting.
You find about, scattered among these trees, you'd find probably about, you could estimate, I'd say, that's a lot of them because it's a fucking big forest. I'd say maybe about 60 in total, but keeping them all in the backpack besides shoving them onto a book bag, your big old magic bag, take quite a few. They're pretty hefty. But yeah, like each patch seems to have about 5 or 6 in total.
Okay. Yeah, just grab like 2 packs of them, like get 10 of them in total.
Sure.
Sit
Pluck
them in the
these
bag.
things out, stuff them in the bag. But yeah, seems like you could find other strange plants and roots and light growing here if you to go out foraging, and others you might just happen to notice spuds growing out of the ground. Simple roots are sticking out thick as the arm. I think this place is abound with so much life. It seems to be infusing into everything, making it grow larger and more potent.
I'm mostly just sort of exercising during the night, more than really exploring all around too much. After I get a good sight of everything around, I'm just enjoying myself in the night air. And then as I sort of stop land on a large branch, as we were here, as we fought the emptiness, the way I can shift the life within me from place to place to enhance one ability or another, to change how I interact with the world, doesn't seem to be interrupted, just as natural as it was before. But Aerosol mentioned that the magics in this world seem to clash with that of the Feywild, and the Marcan is interested if magic born of the Feywild is also as effective. As first, he's just going to raise up his hand, snatch a branch, and pour just a tiny bit of magic into it as it slowly starts to glow brighter and brighter as he casts a little bit of light.
Indeed. Seems like you feel your magic take place as normal. There's no strange pulling or tugging people have mentioned. It just seems like the branch just begins to illuminate as if it were lit by a flame, but no flame exists.
Interesting. All right. As he just sort of puts the branch down in front of him, raises up his hands. As he concentrates for just a moment, the hair starts to sort of swirl in the wind as that slow orange energy sort of starts to leak out of every hair on his arms and his legs, the hair on his neck and the back of his head, as he calls on a little bit of stronger magic, as a divine favor starts to surge through his body, a little bit of strange ethereal energy leaking from every hair.
Again, maybe you feel a strange moment as you're calling upon this energy, somewhat intrinsic to you, but almost in a way gifted to you, as you feel almost not a pull from the outside, but a pull from the inside, as if it feels like something is trying to exasperate the magic for a moment, but maybe it's just being back in this surrounding that seems fine as the magic takes place. You find that soft glow running across your fur. Your magic is cast unhindered.
Interesting. You try to fight me, or are you welcoming me home? Anyway, as I will, for the last bit, I will pull out a small dart in my hand as I hold it back across my neck. The wind around my body just starts to pick up in a fervor as it starts to swirl around the needle as I try to throw it forward at a branch as the wind around me just picks up in a gale as I'm going to cast me some Zephyr Strike at 2nd level.
Nice. And as the wind swirls around your hand and your weapon, giving yourself a moment of great clarity and speed, you do feel this time a tug against you, but it's strange. The level of magic you're using, I guess with you're capable of using, it's quite a challenge to keep and maintain this. With more training, you possibly make it stronger. But the pull you feel against you as you start to throw it, it's prominent, but not imposing. In the same way that like a child may pull upon your arm to stop you from moving, you feel it, it's present, but it doesn't stop you. You can simply overpower it, and the spell functions as normal. Feels like it's just shy of trying to stop you.
I don't understand. The gifts not worthy of your interception. Eh, that is all I have. I'll leave you disappointed. I just sort of look around me in the air, just talking to the wilds themselves as I snatch up my stick, as I just sort of snap it as the light just fades. I toss it off to one side, and then I leap and grab onto the trunk that I threw the dart in and pluck the dart out of the tree. It seems to have sunk pretty deep into it from where I struck it. And it seems like those are all the mysteries that I will discover tonight. But might as well try a bit more. As I'm going to just spend a bit of the night basically putting small sticks up onto the tree, digging them in with my darts, and then standing a good 20 feet back or so, and just throwing darts into very specific sticks, trying to hit pinpoint little locations as I line up the sticks to almost mimic the human body in sorts.
Interesting. Yeah, just spending some time practicing throwing with a bit of this. Assuming you're still concentrating on the magic, the sort of expertise to help guide your attacks, just the puff of the wind, maybe.
No, I'd let the magic fall.
Okay.
After it subsides, I know the spell. Basically, after the first strike, it only really helps protect me from those that would strike out against me, heightens my reflexes, and I'm trying not to rely on any magic in these strikes. Just trying to be all natural.
True. Yeah. Spend some time training. Seems like there's nothing really abating you. There's the soft sound of life again surrounding in the distance. You can see where maybe one of these creatures has caught one of its prey and is dragging it back. Seems like it kind of marks the line where whatever influence this shepherd has over this territory seems to end at about this territory, where you watch that same feline creature dragging back one of these large boars by its teeth and many legs, crawling across the dirt, and end up dragging up one of the far trees until it goes silent.
Good for you. Get to eat tonight. As after my watch is over, I'll head back down, sneak back into the house to not wake anybody up. I think I did find something you might like. Something that druids can usually call upon, those that have a connection to natural magic, something to enhance the flavor and the nutrients of such things, but I've never seen them this big before. As I pull a big ass berry out of my bags. I want to give it a shot. I'll try it with you. So I'll pull one out for myself.
Definitely. Sort of pull my hands away from finishing up Luna's loose braid and grab one of these good berries.
All right.
This is very large. Perfect. I unhinge my jaw.
Yeah, bottoms up as I do the same.
All right. Taking a bite into this thing, it tastes at first, there's an immediate like stab of bitterness as you go through the rind of this thing that explodes. Your mind for a moment just goes a blank with just how much concentrated sweetness emanates through. As Tamarkan, I need a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, that's good.
Oh shit.
Ooh. As
Good
this
stuff.
thing, for a moment, tastes almost sickeningly sweet. It would cause a lesser man to probably vomit the moment he took a bite out of it, but as the flavors start to course through, it's good, but it's like it's the sweetest and the tartest and the most just overwhelming flavor as you feel immediate vitality run through. Your sense of hunger is subsided almost to the point where you feel like you never eat again except for this berry. Never drink again, never be thirsty. All of your senses just completely overwhelmed by this thing. Samantha, on the other hand, feels all of the good without any of the sickening, as her body seems acclimated towards such things.
You just see her looking, you see like her just take like a third bite and her eyes open up and they just seem to sort of roll back in the back of her head. Oh, that is good.
I was not expecting it. It's like a giant lime.
It's so tasty. Oh God. It does not hold back on the flavor at all. Do you not like yours?
It's a bit much. Usually, the larger ones have a bit of a muted flavor, but I suppose with everything leaking through, it's...
The second you say it's a bit much, you see just her left hand just extend out towards you.
I just sort of toss it up and then flick it over in your direction. Have
Catch
at it.
You just see me put it behind myself as the snakes on the top of my head just swarm around it and hold on to it. Oh, that's good. Here's the other ones you got.
Oh, I have a few more. I thought everyone might try, but now after having a taste, maybe not. But they can make their own decision. I've done a bit of checking around, though. It's not anything that spectacular. The woods, they are much like they were, although I haven't been here in a few years. But obviously changed a bit. The wildlife has gone, well, a little bit more wild. The life itself, though, it is only surging forth, which is interesting. Certainly places in the wilds were like this. Others, it was like time moved quicker. Everything lived fast and died fast. Something was booming with life, but that means it was consumed faster. Not so in this place.
You think perhaps that's the influence of it being the Summer Queen that's being summoned forth? Her children. Summer's the peak of life, is it not?
I do not know. I've gone through many seasons here, and you see life all over the place, even in winter. But who's to say? Besides that, I have tested my magic god and do not know if its nature is different. For mine comes from my father, born, well, partially from the wilds. Maybe if it was truly of the wilds, it would be less affected, but it seems like I am not hindered, although it is still there, trying to pull at it. And I certainly cannot call on as powerful magic as the rest of you. Anything more than, well, practiced, I suppose, was the best way to say it. But anything of a talented wizard, I suppose, or cleric even, might get intercepted by whatever is, well, taking hold of these places.
Coincides with what, Arizov, I believe, with what he was saying. Even his magic is affected, and he's been here for who knows how long.
Indeed. So, keep it quick. I'm going to go to bed. What do you think we're going to do? You think we're going to go to the city and get in a brawl with some of these heralds? See if we spill the beans, as they say?
I don't think it'll come to blows with the elves there, though if it is the efforts of the council, maybe there might be someone with a vested interest in this change that is willing to kill to see it come about. But hopefully, it doesn't come to that.
I'm just hoping it is going to be something a bit more entertaining than meetings and dinners and courts. I love a good party, but, well, negotiations are not exactly the most thrilling thing on my plate.
That is true. The thing that I would put your hopes into in my experience is if this is a call for power, something to be gained, to be used, a tool, if you will, like a sword. Sometimes you need a sword to protect yourself, and sometimes you need a sword to attack others. Hopefully, it is neither of those things. Hopefully, if you're lucky, you little rapscallion, they need a sword because something threatens them. Something that is not another kingdom. Something they cannot handle without this power. That is where we could come in.
Of course. But if we get into talks and things are going long, if you need someone to go do a thing for you, run across the city, find things, do something, please keep me in mind, will you? I simply, this is a very interesting place, and I would love to be on the move. I'm not one to sit still for very long.
Skilled and talented in talking though I may be, I severely doubt Persephone is going to want my tongue. prattling into the ears of elven nobility, so you may find yourself with someone who needs something to do herself.
True enough. Alright, well, I am going to go back to sleep. Have fun. Not sleeping.
Oh, I will
Oh, there's more in the bag. I'll just leave it here.
take out my vacuum bag and just stick them in the gimme. Thank you.
Sure it's the right
Oh,
bag.
Yeah, I'm not giving them to Chomps. Fuck Chomps. Chomps is in the corner. Oh god, what if I did feed it to Chomps? Would he puke? Oh jeez. All the bodies come up.
Okay. As both you guys give yourselves a Demon Inspiration and roll D100. That's pretty good. I enjoy that shit.
Oh, snap. I already got it.
Uh-oh. D100, D100.
I didn't have it, so I get 1.
Ooh, they're
Oh,
spicy.
shit. Those are good ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Get these lined up real quick. Nice. One sec. As indeed with that, Temercon, although strangely riddled with all this energy, you can still find enough to almost in the same experience you were describing looking for. You feel a rush as if you just had a good night's sleep for a moment. You ate a bunch of food. You're never thirsty, never hungry again, and then you feel it start to fade from you for a moment. As it seems like it's time for bed. Although Samantha constantly gorging on these things, she'll never feel that ever again. As third watch would come.
Got a sugar high and then I crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Just for a quick frame of reference, you might have said an example when he was searching for them, but just how big are they compared to a real fruit?
Size of a tomato, like a big old fat tomato can fit in your palm.
Okay.
You can take a bite into them. Yeah, like that.
Good.
Like that, John. Good shit. Take a big old bite out of it. As third watch would come. I'm assuming Coldar wakes up from his trance. Anything else you guys want to do? Anyone third?
No, I'm trancing second and third.
Okay, cool. So unless there's no one wanting to do anything on third, things just go uneventful to the fourth. You guys want to do? Otherwise, we'll just move on right along. It's up to you guys.
I'll just detrance in my fourth and sharpen my blade outside the door.
Sure.
It's just here.
Keeping yourself nice. Oh, that's ominous. Just a man sharpening a knife, a sharp object outside. Cool.
I send my familiar to go fly by like the window and see what the sharpening noise is. Okay, good. It's cool. Dark. All right, come back.
Not a murderer at your door. That's indeed. After some time, you guys would find your rest within this place, or some of you outside of this place. You could see that the sun barely is able to break through the canopy above. The sky, just a sort of soft, through the trees, it almost looks emerald in color till finally the edge of it breaches through and you could see the soft blue of a sky shared by all lands appearing above. As you would find yourselves waking up on the next day, fully rested. I think it is Monday, March 19th. As Arisov would be up, you'd see him having food. I guess probably stumbling across Samantha in the room, still awake, having not slept but rested apparently. How many of those things did you eat through the night, Samantha?
I ate the one that Tamarin gave me, and then the one he had a bite of, I just like fed to my serpents. But other than that, I stood with the rest of them.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Can't waste a good thing like this.
Mm-hmm. As Arisov would bring himself back into the room, some of you guys getting yourselves around from camp. I see. Oh, I hope you all found rest in this place. It is meant to be a shelter for the lost, bring warmth in the cold of night. I'm assuming you're ready to depart.
Indeed.
The quicker we get there, the better.
Right, just one thing really quick. Samantha, I need the chest. As she gestures to herself, just wearing this party dress that she traveled with everyone in.
Did I put your armor in there? I didn't recall doing that.
Well, I would hope the armor that I commissioned in Cradlekeep would be done. And if it's done, then Tenzin was supposed to put it in the chest. So I just want to really check if it's in the chest.
Oh, all right. So I'd reach and grab the token for the chest and just boom, summon it in front of me. Crack it open.
Chest appears right in front of you, crack it open. And there's some things in there. You do still see, it's been sort of tucked away with everything else. You do still see your package actually still inside there. It seems like they hadn't opened it yet. But yeah, one of the parcels that have been in there for a little bit. Not sure if you guys checked it or not, but it's been in there. You'd find, looks to be not quite a full set, but what you've had done and commissioned, you this nice beautiful ruby colored breastplate. It looks like it's made of metal, but as you handle it, there's a clattering as these scales bounce against each other, but they're not made of any iron or steel. It seems as if they're made of the actual scales of a dragon, carved away and framed with what looks to be thin slits of what look to be carved away bone. From the outside, it looks like it's a nice steel set, but you'd realize that this dragon breastplate is born from its name.
It looks so good.
It explains
Alright.
this. There you go.
I take my new breastplate and then I dig out my other regular travel clothes from my bag of holding. Hold on just a moment. And I run into the closet that Luna used last night to change.
Reminds me, I never had them make that belt for me. Anyway,
Look in the chest. Are there any other packages in here that I've just sort of forgotten about, haven't paid attention to?
If you haven't already taken them, you probably would have found some arrows that seem to be tipped with obsidian, but they've probably been taken in the time. As well as just some other knickknacks you guys had been working on. It was basically a big question early after the downtime ended was, hey guys, you got your stuff. It's a matter of, did you pick it up or not? So it's either been in there or you've always had it.
Ugh, everyone has their things. The only thing that should be in there is the debrief package, it sounds like. Then
Mm-hmm. The bomb, yeah.
the bomb, yep. So close it up and send it back to the nebulous plane that it exists on.
Okay, now I'm ready.
Alrighty.
Good.
On armor. That's some fine armor.
Thank you. I had it made out of
Appropriate.
Ophidius' scales.
You are a dragon slayer. You should dress like one.
I will dress however I please. Persephone skips on over and stands next to Swift Hollow. Alright. Let's go. Home.
It will take some time.
I
Magic
know.
is quite unstable, although you're always free to try. But I do know a peaceful path. We take our time and stroll gently. It might be a beautiful sightseeing tour, a reminder of where you used to be. A place you can visit in dreams, but to see it in reality, not as a treasure.
As basically for the next day and a half, you guys would be traveling through the Illyrian woods, making your way up northern through this place, safely guarded by this shepherd of the forest. Time would pass, you'd watch as he walks. He sort of would every once in a while just sort of be mumbling. It sounds like a hum of a song, but to those who understand Sylvan, they seem to be almost a magical incantation, sort of using his own power of sorts, his massive size, to keep a gentle aura around himself. Wherever he walks, you might see like the prowling of some beast nearby, but as his eyes seem to match it, just as those most perceptive also would. You'd see the thing would sort of keep itself at bay and remain at afar. It seems as if he's able to keep himself in this perpetual state surrounded by peaceful creatures. There's always a strange, peaceful aura to him. Something, perhaps the result of a spell, perhaps the result of some other old magic. Hard to say if it's powerful, hard to say if it's innate. But within this time, unless there's anything else you want to do, you would find yourselves reaching the edge of a forest on, what would that be? March. Cool. You mean on the mid-afternoon of Tuesday, March 20th. You'd break through the edge of the forest. Thick, tall trees, still great in height, but much shorter than they once were. Breaking open to what looks to be the great heights of a mountain. The tall, fey-touched trees are so overgrown that you wouldn't be able to see the actual tips and the edges of this great rocky expanse, unless you guys, as you were before, had hid yourselves high above the treetops within that magical carpet. But now as you break open into this great opening within the forest, you are greeted to a wondrous sight. Great, thick roots and maybe the results of woven trees through the use of magic form something of a, what might call a fence, but truly a great tall wall that surrounds the perimeter of this settlement. Sort of nestled and in some cases like knitted and surrounded by this plant life are these bright blue and softly in this afternoon light glowing crystals. It seems as if crystal life is embedded into just about everything within this city. Behind them, far taller than the walls themselves, seem to be towers and buildings sort of nestled in between these rocky crags. As the people of Illyria, elves in general, aren't like dwarves. Quite the opposite, actually. They do not carve into their surroundings to form their settlements. They do not flatten hills and mountains to grow their homes. They do not rip their way through the walls of cliffs to form their caves. Instead, elves choose to live within, harmonized with nature. Where hills and mountains would rise, their own homes would be extensions of them. Whether the use of simple architecture or magic to pull the stone and the shapes of buildings from their material, even having built some of their buildings within the reaching and wrapping roots of trees. But really, what stands out about this whole thing, the great white stone walls of these buildings, is the glittering emeralds that seem to line the tops of each of these great parapets of these, what seems to be the Common Grounds Tower that reaches further into this city. It's glorious, it is beautiful, it is teeming with light, whether by the use of this rising sun or magic. As where the end of nature breaks through this fey-infused forest, the valiant vanguards step forward to find themselves standing quite off a ways, but within view of the gates of the city of crystals in Innilen.
Ooh.
Valiant Vanguard? Welcome to the Crystal Forest. Or as most people usually call it, Innilen.
Just been a while.
As you see large Arisov sort of step to the side of the path. He stands silently looking over this great tall city, wide and glimmering with jewels and stone. He just sort of sighs and smiles. It is quite a precious and lovely looking place.
Honestly, was expecting tree houses.
No.
Much shinier than what I was told.
At sunset, it glitters. The light from the sky reflects off of the windows and the gems, and it can create its own rainbow in the sky.
Interesting. Do you think we'll face any difficulties getting in?
That's a good question. Well,
We're with nobility,
have
are
to
we not?
see.
Are you going to announce
yeah.
yourself at the gates, Persephone? Or would
I
you
might
prefer
have to.
Swift Hollow or myself make the way in?
No, it's okay. This is my home. I think I can handle coming back home. They smile at Arisov and thank you. And give him a big hug.
It is good to see you again in the waking world, my little flower.
As a large looming hand comes over your shoulder and gently pats you on the back.
And to finally find faces to match the tales of these new friends you've made. It is a pleasure to meet you all. Unfortunately, I must return to my domicile. It is not my time or my place to enter these walls.
We do not know each other for long, but it was good.
I
Thank you
know
for
it will not
shepherding
be the
us.
last. It is my joy and my duty, Samantha Deus.
It's amazing, the contrast.
He hardly spoke when we first met. He's made a lot of improvement.
I learned from a little girl. She had more to teach me at times than I her.
What I'm hearing is she's contagious. Excellent.
But you already knew that.
Lovely things often are. But I shall return. If you require my assistance, well, you know where to find me, whether here or in the dream.
Okay. As Persephone is going to lead the way to the gates.
Alrighty. You're about like 250 or so feet away from the edge of the forest, just thinning now to give you this view. Walking along a path that Not like the roads in Mobia that seem to be laid with stone. It seems almost older, like you'd expect in the far reaches of this country. The stone, it almost seems as if the earth itself has been sort of risen and sifted above the actual grass, where it forms hardened steps to match the wheels of wagons, but doesn't look like it's been truly paved or carved by tool. As you would approach the edge of this great, looks like wooden wall, about 50 feet in height, between each woven, looks like trees growing out of the ground, expected to be dead, but instead they still seem like they're teeming with life. You put your hand against one of them, it still feels firm, not brittle. They seem to be growing up around and with these crystals that just seem to be jutting out of the ground. A crystal you'd probably recognize, Persephone, as something quite familiar to this city, something that is often found in Illyria and even the edges of Tyrion, but truly houses itself here in the Crystal City. A special something known as Zendalure, also known as Elven Diamonds. As you approach the gate, you're expecting, some probably expecting guards, expecting those to face you, but instead, these large looming crystals that seem to parapet the edge of this gate. Oh, that's not right. There, parapet the edge of this gate actually softly glow, and a voice seems to hum from them. Greetings, traveler. This voice seems to speak in a soft, elven tone. What is your business in the Crystal City?
Lady Valora has come home. I'd like to see my parents again.
There's just silence.
I scan the towers and the parapets.
We looking for a particular.
Oh, someone did fucking murder us.
Looking up, you would actually see sort of peering over the edge of one of the towers after maybe 10 seconds of kind of now awkward silence. You would see a head sort of peek up over from the top. Looks like smooth, not quite steel, but some sort of maybe mithril armor resting his head. Look of a soldier, long pointed ears, a full-blooded elf, just very carefully peering over the edge down towards the gate at this gaggle of travelers standing before. And you see another head sort of peer over, and they sort of turn to each other, and there's this maybe too far away to hear voices until they look back down, and then one of them immediately dips back and at a quite fast speed as the gates. You see upon this crystal face of facets, this sort of shimmer of it looks to be like smoke or something moving within, but really it's like the refraction of light forming the shape of this large, half-broken circle. A familiar scene to you, Persephone, way you're always able to get out of here. Simply your voice, your command holds the power to open and shut these gates as they seem almost on their own, regardless of those watching, to form the opening, and the door seems to slide open, a soft breeze pulling towards you as it does, as you find yourself able to enter your home city.
Aha! Okay. Isn't it amazing? It's amazing.
In its own way, yes.
Persephone skips on in.
So you get to walk through the door this time.
We just get to go right in.
Still
As
on
you
my
would-
alert.
Walk inside, you'd see people. You'd enter the common grounds, also known as the had it there. There we are. The Hardstone District. The city is quite interesting in its shape. At the back of it seems to be pressed against basically the face of the crown of Eridan, one of the great circular mountains at the center of this country. You find yourself at the sort of common ground at the foot of this hill. If the mountains like that, most of the city rests like this in this big circle. And currently you find yourself entering this front face here at the Hardstone District. This sort of makes up both the general marketplace and living grounds of this city. You would know Persephone at its center is this great circle known as the Diamondstone District, where both the council members who come from all across Illyria gather to speak, as well as your family resides. And within this sort of split and severed strange shape here is the Gemstone District, the separated group of Inniland, those housing the special workers known as the Gemcasters, those who can pull the actual precious properties of the gemstones from the mountains without disrupting the natural order of them and bringing the crystals into Inniland. As you guys would find yourself entering the Hardstone District, where all the commoners are. you'd see the place is quite lively but calm. Those who are used to Mobian nations usually expect to see cities like these to be teeming, like that of Oakwell. You just got out of a festival where there's sounds and laughter and joy echoing through all the streets. But here, elves are often quiet, save for those most boisterous, those especially touched by human blood. The streets are somber and soft. You could see those walking among them quietly, elves wearing, even those you consider commoners to be wearing long, flowing silken robes that befit them probably like you'd expect of a noble, as they would be walking around sort of making casual conversation. Stalls that seem to be formed from stone, pulled up from the ground and shaped without having to be carved themselves, seem to mark the familiar faces of the marketplace. Those who seem to making their own, both their home and their shop within the faces of these great mountains and stones lodging out of the ground. It seems like the place is lively, but somewhat quiet. All around you, Kuldar, keeping your eyes on the surroundings, you do see... Actually, give me a perception check. Let's see your vigilance at work. All right, pretty decent. It's a new city for you. These buildings are tall, but the architecture is relatively familiar. You've seen cities like this, although it's truly hard to compare all of them to the likes of this Inulin. You would see the occasional face, the glimmer of what looks to be some of that elven steel adorned on a soldier walking by. He would be keeping his guard, his stance firm as you guys would approach and make your way through the city, sort of unperturbed. But you would catch, maybe just at the side of your eye, the occasional like head turn of a soldier sort of looking after you, whether he's keeping his close eye on you or just watching you in particular. Hard to say the incentive, hard to say if he's actually tailing you, but you do have some eyes on you as you enter and walk through this city.
How are they armed?
It looks like these men are wearing your typical Illyrian garb. They're wearing, it looks to be breastplates made out of, again, assuming mithril, or at least metal lined with mithril. They wear helmets on their heads to guard, of course, the tops of their heads, keep their ears pointed out so they can hear the sounds of enemies approaching. They dress and wear armor quite light, unlike that of like Mobian soldiers who hang chainmail and plate across their body. Most of them seem to be armed at the side with a pair of short swords, and strapped to their back is a very long, well-strung, well-maintained bow with a quiver full of plenty of well-trimmed and groomed arrows.
No shields.
Don't seem to be shields. Seem mostly just swords. That's sort of the Illyrian style.
Okay, Swifty, I know we need to get Gizmo a room in a tavern, and the Moonlight Plaza is around here somewhere, but since I did introduce myself by my given name, we might need to go to the estate first. I'm sure my return is going to stir up, well, some people.
How nervous does Gizmo look?
Is that okay, Gizmo?
I'd say, all things considered, you've known Gizmo long enough that he is quite a squeaky, frightened individual, especially when in positions where people seem to be on edge. But this moment, he seems statuesque, staring ahead. With your incredibly high insight, Persephone, you realize he is like a bundle of anxiety. He's not shaking, he's too stiff to shake, but he seems to be walking almost robotically and quietly. He seems to be having all of his wares sort of like tucked away neatly, so nothing seems to be sticking out, save for maybe the bump of some wrench he has. He seems to be just walking robotically as he answers you. I'm fine. Let's just keep walking, head forward.
I'm
That'll
going
be
to
quick.
step in front of Gizmo and just put my hands on his shoulders. She's right. It will be quick. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't even have to introduce yourself. I don't even have to introduce you, right? You don't want anybody to know who you are, right?
I would like to remain as inconspicuous as possible. Is not
Wonderful.
saying my name inconspicuous? I'll do it.
Come on, Gizmo. We'll find the tavern. I'll catch up. Don't you worry.
Okay, if you get lost, just have somebody direct you towards the crystal tree. The Thea estate is not far from there.
Nods. And heads off with Gizmo in tow.
All right, heading off
I give
towards
her-
another.
Yeah, I give her directions to Moonlight Plaza
Yeah.
so that she can get him the tavern.
Yep. around the edge on the eastern side of the Hardstone district, you'd see, yep, there's a point where it gets close to the actual divide. Not truly a wall, more just like a rise in the landscape, getting closer to the mountain. Where, yeah, you can see this nice little moonlight plaza. It looks like this beautiful building made of this pearlescent sort of stone that pulls itself out of the mountain. It seems to be engraved with the symbol of a great moon that sheds down these effervescent light from the inside. And actually, as you walk inside, you'd see a soft dimness glow from it. If you would know if you're walking out here at night, it probably shed a little bit of what seems to be magical moonlight. Yeah, seems like it's a pretty well and off place. Elven inns, as some of you have been to in Crossway, are relatively well kept. The one you're in was sort of full of nature, more like an outdoor experience with birds and like everywhere. But here seems to be everything's kept nice and tidy. Every seam is well sewn. Every fabric is well tucked and folded. It almost seems like a high-end inn you're staying in, although the one thing you probably notice being here, if you're to try and find a bed, is they do not have beds. They simply have what seem to be soft pillows that line the hardwood floors.
Gizmo has a thingamadoohickey. It's fine. He has a
I've
bed.
got
He's
a
got an
thing.
air mattress.
I've got an invention for this.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Room for one.
Easily enough. For how long exactly?
Persephone, did you tell us how long it was going to be? We were like, let's go to the wedding! We were like, okay, sounds good.
I was like, let's go and stop a wedding, but you do know the wedding is in like a month.
Oh, fuck. 1 month. And a day.
Very well. Expected. As cost you
Flat down
about
those platinum pieces.
okay. One gold with a price.
I'm an elf. I'm filthy rich. Who gives a shit?
Plus one.
Persephone, it was like 350 gold, that's all.
Seems like it would cost you about for in here, just for the inn itself, it cost you about 62 gold, although platinum, basically 6.5 platinum.
Here's
7
your
for rounding
6 plat, 2 gold, and then yes, with Hollow hands Gizmo like oh fuck. How do I keep Gizmo fed? Does he go out? Does he forage for food, or does he like Gizmo?
He
manages?
foraged for food. He was able to get lost in the Mobian crowds. Here he might be a little stiffer, but he can probably go find food if you leave him money to go buy food.
Okay, yeah. So Hollow gives him like 25 gold divided among gold pieces and silver pieces.
Certainly. This should do. Am I going to stay for a month here? It's a small room. Might be loud. Can pad the walls with some of that fabric so they don't hear anything I might be walking on. Should I walk on anything here? Oh, it's going to be a challenge.
Keep going.
I'll make a do with it.
At least on the Blues Prince. Yeah, as they're all talking, as they're walking to the room in quiet voices. At least on the invention.
Might get a little loud. You certain? I'll be as quiet as I can.
How was Swithal like, with her incredibly high perception? How crowded does this inn seem? I'm guessing
Not
not really.
particularly. It's about the size that
Quite
you'd expect,
empty.
like the Rooster's Crown. Its rooms are relatively spaced and relatively well lined and offered. It seems like you could have your privacy between rooms. It's just a matter of you guys had the luxury in Mobia of having craftsmen work on this thing in a house where you're basically telling people don't worry about anything going upstairs. Here, it's going to be a little more limited. It would probably take him longer to work quietly. Unless you want to keep working several progress, but it'll be loud.
Swithal hit just in the room surrounding Gizmo, she just like knocks.
Sure, just seems like it's
Yeah,
relatively,
the Hello,
walls
people
are
here?
relatively small.
No? Oh no, she means like knock on the door. Hello, are there people here?
Yeah, people. It seems like there's one room to the side of it does seem to be occupied. Someone answered the door. It looks like an elf who answers you in elven tongue, exactly what you want. Other room seems to be empty.
Oops, wrong room. I was expecting a friend. Clumsy elves, am I right? Speaking all in Elvish, of course. Feels weird talking in her native tongue.
Okay. So.
Yep, she points out that to Gizmo. Pad that wall. Pad that wall. In particular.
So me. All right.
And making sure that Gizmo's all set, she heads back to the group.
Okay. As the rest of you get, you guys looking for something particular? You're all heading towards the noble district.
I'm going straight to the noble district.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm curious about something as we carve our way through the streets, sort of keeping
Certainly.
my demeanor open and as friendly as can be, putting on my most happy face, keeping my snakes docile and to the side, but again, not in disguise. What does the overall take seem to be?
As far as like the people?
Yeah, just moving through the streets. Are people staring or just like glancing and moving about their business?
Sure. I'm gonna ask for an insight check. It's more of a measurement than it is a success or failure.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Okay. Just about as you expect. You do see some people walking around again. As you entered, you sort of got the immediate feel of an elven city. Most people seem to tend to themselves. Conversations are quiet and sort of soft-spoken. There's no need to raise a voice or make a scene here within the city of Inalin. And as you do walk, you do begin to notice that at least numbers of these people start to gather in greater numbers as you approach the center of this great place. Something that probably Quildor's eyes will begin to pick up on as well, as he keeps his eyes on those armed. As indeed, bit by bit, maybe like every 5 minutes or so, you're walking, making your way through these relatively spaced, but still almost maze-like assortment of buildings. It seems like the organization of this place is defined by the landscape rather than the architects who would otherwise design it. That, yeah, you would have a set of people gathering, sort of like, there would be like 2 people off in the distance here, maybe 5 over here, and then the next place you're going to walk, just as you're entering, you would see maybe a dozen or so gathering, those who have to cut apart for you guys to walk through them. Cool, you notice one of the guards watching you, sort of keep his head and go back to his business, and then later down the line, you'd see a few more guards that's having to be walking in the corner and just sort of stop and look at they're having a conversation with someone, but then stop to turn to look at you guys as you get closer and closer to the center of this district until by the time you reach what looked to be this large archway, not gates, but a large divide with a set of stairs taking you up from the hardened floor of this ground level to the upper level of the hill that rests at the foot of this great mountain. To the point where you're no longer surrounded by those just having idle conversation. You see about, God, maybe more than 50 or so, at this point no longer hiding, staring, watching as this group of outsiders has made their way towards the heart of their city, and lined along the archway seem to be about 6 or so of these armed individuals clad in their elven silver, blocking your path. Until eventually this crowd sort of subsides and begins to move, not to surround, but to spread and watch, as you can hear voices within whispering both to Persephone and to Luna, with your incredibly high perception, just, that's actually her. She was dead. Where did she go? It's her. She's a lot shorter. As the guards would sort of keep, not their hands on their hilts, but would stand at attention, one of them steps forward as he will look you guys over from like maybe about 50 feet or so away. We heard word that an individual had access to the main gate with a privilege only allowed to those of the royal family. Why is that? How did you come across such magic?
It's not magic. It's me. I just smile at them, and I just want to see how they react to that.
As you look across their faces, you can see some of them sort of glance at each other. One of the men steps down from his step, armor sort of clattering as he steps forward, closer and closer and closer.
Really?
You could see this hardened expression upon his face as he seems to observe you very closely. And you see a soft, gentle smile sort of cut across his face. You didn't get any taller. As a voice familiar but deepened by time echoes into your ears as a friendly expression spreads across a familiar face, now older, now more defined, less rounded as he once was as a child, less of a sore loser as you remembered him, a friend you had once played cards with quite some time ago.
Aaron?
Do I
You're
look
a
any
guard
different?
now? You're a guard now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed. As he'll reach out, and you can see the soldier sort of look confused at this, as this guard reaches out and just gives you a big hug, Persephone. And then immediately pulls his arms away. Of course, your return to the city, Lady Varia, would require an immediate summons and meeting with the Lord himself.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, right. Well, it seems as if the disturbance at the gate was none to be worried about. This was simply a return of the lady. Everyone, people of Inalin, rejoice in the welcoming of Lady Varia, the second heir to this great city, and soon to be betrothed sister to the great lord to be. As all the elves around begin to very gently applaud, very quiet, like almost like a golf clap that sort of rises into a soft, like, verbal applause.
Theron, I go by Persephone now.
Persephone?
You remember?
Really? It's okay. I don't know how to announce that. That's I don't know if they're going to accept.
If we can sort it out later.
We'll sort it out later. Come with us. Right this way. Guards, make way. As he'll sort of step aside, as the guards will make a line, following along you guys, as you guys will start to follow after. Many eyes falling upon you, especially upon Quildor. As you'd see many of these guards looking you over, kind of like they'll glance over Persephone. It seems like she's the star of the show. The strange-looking individuals who seem to be lining and apparently flying behind you guys. But eyes definitely stop to linger on the knight who enters. As one guard will actually stop and be like, "You?
Yes.
You carry yourself. You're a guard, a knight. Where do you hail from?"
I am the shield of Zamaria.
Persephone's like eyes wide and she just shakes her head vigorously, but she can't stop Quill.
As you see all their expressions begin to harden, they look at each other, and before one of them begins to say something, you hear ahead of them, "Come this way, come." As you hear Aaron usher you guys forward, "We have to meet with the Lord."
I must admit, Persephone, I thought I was going to be met with fear here. It is refreshing.
I wasn't worried about you.
Really?
I wasn't worried about you at all.
So I just walk with boldness and authority.
I look over my shoulder at Quill. I was worried about him.
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?
Many
They don't
people
like
die.
him. Pfft. Yeah, the war's over.
You said the worst.
Is there going to be a fight?
No fights. No fights, please. No fights. Theron, we're not here to start a fight. I'm just here to...
That's
You're
disappointing.
about to walk into the royal residence of a city of Illyria. They have more food, more drink than almost you could even imagine.
I've been here before. Those crystals are very well faceted to the stonework and everything. No reason, just maybe you might want to know that.
I can only imagine why you know that, Tamar.
Obviously, he has a passion for architecture.
It hit. Nail on the head.
Theron, where's Rael right now? Is he also in a meeting with Father and the council?
Actually, yes. He should be finishing soon. I think he's going to be quite excited to meet you.
The whole council's
He
here.
spends most of his mornings, actually, at meetings, though he tries to find time to sneak out, you know. They're kind of boring.
Oh,
So
yeah,
what-
I know.
I gotta ask, where have you been? Who are these? No, hold on. You said Persephone. I knew that sounded familiar.
My grin gets bigger and bigger.
I knew that sounded familiar. You guys are the Dragon Slayers. You're a Dragon Slayer?
See the armor?
Dear God, I thought that was metal. I thought you'd even like touching metal.
I don't. I'm actually...
It's dragon scale.
I developed like a really, really bad allergy to iron over the last year.
Wow, that just made you sick. That's terrible. As he's saying that, seemingly concerned, his eyes are just completely fixated on the scales. He's looking him over. As you're from behind, sir, I believe we need to get moving. No, rabble rousing with the lady. Right.
Oh, I thought you would be relieved to not interrupt my father's meeting. You know he can get very, very, very upset, especially when it is his daughter interrupting, after all.
Of course, yeah. Can move. Dragon Slayer. You gotta tell me the story after this.
Mm-hmm.
As you guys will make your way from the Hardstone district towards the center of this place. As you enter past the archway, these large, glorious buildings seem to become even taller. You seem like the buildings themselves are actually lifted off the ground off these stilts. You can see where waterways seem to be running around this circle of ornate-looking buildings, almost like castles lifted off the ground themselves, as if too clean and too pure to touch the earth. Yet all around them, just as you've seen before, the great rise and lifting of the earth in hardened stone shapes, jagged, glorious elven diamond crystals peeking through the buildings and off the tops, and even the roots of trees that seem to grow over and through the small archway divide. This place is centered and surrounded by nature. But what really draws the eye, besides these large emerald glowing buildings in the background, seems to be a light that centers itself at the center of this plaza. Its source cannot be seen yet, but even you, Persephone, and Tamarkan would probably know of this. Something you may have seen, but were ushered away from quite some time ago. Probably the landmark of Inniland, besides the great mines of which they take these gemstones away. A source of great, true magical power that lies at the heart of this city. A tree interposed of both the material of wood and plant life, as well as pure crystal. An entity, so to speak, known as the Zendalurada, otherwise the Diamond Tree. It is something that has existed in Inniland for quite some time, a source of old great power, some say far longer residing here than the city itself. It seems as if most magic seems to stem and emanate from it, stands as a true testament to what makes Inniland stand out against the other Illyrian cities, its source and production of magic. And something is wrong. Rising with this soft pillar of light that marks this zone, Persephone and Luna, and Quildar keeping his eyes sharp out, you would notice something and twirling and rising within this pillar of light. A large plume of smoke. As suddenly, as you guys begin to hear this, you can see Aaron is just fixated with you, Persephone, like just trying to keep his eyes ahead, but truly focused on you until you hear the clattering of metal and the heavy footsteps of what seem to be leather boots as more guards come from the north. Captain Aaron, he's done it again! Like,
I did not! It was not me this time.
The Wildfire Prince!
Be on fire.
He's trying to burn the tree! As you see Aaron, like, his face goes blank as he turns back to you. That is a problem.
Are you in need of assistance?
Yes, please.
Let's go.
One of the Fae is making his home here a little too lively, as he'll draw his sword and start to run. God damn it! As guards will rush forward towards the north, towards what seems to be the center of life in Inniland. As the smokestack grows larger and larger, in the distance you can hear what sounds to be the deep crackle of flame intermixed with the sound of what only can be described as capricious laughter. This rising crackle that rises to an even greater ascent as someone seems to be enjoying themselves greatly in this moment. As that is, we will end tonight's episode of Song of Rapture. The valiant vanguard rushing ahead, not only into this foreign city of Inniland, towards what seems to be the breaking point of danger within, but into truly the next chapter of their journey, as they will be dealing with beings of great power from beyond this realm, those who hope to usher in not only a Fae queen to betroth and take hold of this area as her domain, but also those who ushered in and herald her as her children. What will they do? What will they encounter? How will they deal with this wildfire prince and those else who found themselves now home in this city? We have to tune in not next week, but the week after on the 30. What day is that? Is that November? It might be November.
No.
29.
Don't fucking say
It-
that.
29th.
29th. Nice.
Yeah, for the record, hearing the Wildfire Prince, Samantha would shield herself in ice.
Yeah, same here.
I pulled my
Yeah,
ice
me
cube,
too.
threw myself all in the body.
Rub ice cubes on my butt.
What? I was like, do you
I'm
also
ready.
armor maggot this? Oh, interesting.
I shall
It
show you
seems
this.
like
I should have shown you that
there
while
is-
describing it.
Hey!
I thought I moved it.
very nice. Pretty elven city is very pretty.
So are we running here?
You're running towards the center where it seems like this great smokestack has risen from this pillar of light that normally shouldn't be smoking. Seems like someone's trying to light this diamond tree on fire.
Alright, who has Ripon Cell?
Honestly,
I mean,
same.
Ripon Cell. I
You would-
think I
you
need
would
my
so
magic crossbow.
No
Alright,
one's discussed their
fantastic.
magic items yet. But yeah, that's what we got for you today,
Yeah,
baby.
anyways. I think I'm gonna need a magic weapon for this. I don't think mundane crossbow bolts are gonna do it, guys.
I thought we gave you Ripon so
Yeah, we
forever
did.
ago.
Yeah, but not really. But yeah, we did. But no, not really.
I mean, we did.
Ending with
you just
everything
didn't
else
take
that's
it.
over there.
We glossed over that in like the 1 day downtime that we had before leaving here.
Yeah, something, downtime,
It was very much like, these 3 things, Switol probably take them. Alright, Switol,
yeah,
here's
you
here.
have
What
them
about the
now.
rest of them?
The things that say need to be attuned to pretty much by a rogue. This is the most assassin-y thing that we have ever seen. Let's give it to the assassin.
Thanks.
all I got.
I get magic items, and you guys get weird superpowers. It evens out.
Yes, I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight for Song of Rapture, and I hope you enjoyed this, not really a trip into the Feywilds, more like the Feywild taking a trip to us, it seems, as I am eagerly looking forward to the next chapter of Song of Rapture, and I hope you are as well, and I hope to see you again, like Omen said, not next week, but week after, on the 29th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on Lionhead Gaming for more Song of Rapture. That being said, there's always more D&D to be had on Lionhead Gaming, and we have the just freshly lightning-struck Oracle's Chosen now at the city gates of Mitros. It seems like the city is storm-tossed and it perhaps even maybe flooded in parts. They'll have to figure out what it is that's going on there and what they can possibly do to stop it. I can't hope to just throw a spear at the storm. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe Valis, the goddess of wisdom, will have some wisdom to share, and it seems like maybe even Kyra has some thoughts on the matter of her own. Not something she has shared with them, but something she needs to confirm. And see how it all works out. So be sure to tune in this Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on Lionhead Gaming for Heroes of Thylia, and they'll be coming right on back this upcoming Tuesday. Oh boy, as the Apex Alliance have sprung into action mid-jump, it seems, right into the jaws of defeat or the triumph of victory. You'll have to tune in this Tuesday as they try to take on Arbiek, the archdevil of swarms, prince of hells, bringer of death and devastation.
Big
But will
stinky
he-
man.
Big stinky man, indeed. But
Big
will he
stinky
be
man.
folded over like a breakfast omelet by the Apex Alliance? We shall see. They'll certainly try
shall
their
he break
best,
us like
or they'll die trying. So be sure to tune in for the climactic triumph or end of Kingdoms of the South this upcoming Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank you all one final time so much for watching, and as a reminder, you can always follow me on Twitter or join the Discord for updates and changes to the schedule, along with my opinions on things on Twitter, along with the group's opinions on things in Discord, and discussions about various games, this, that, and the other, classic Discord things. And yeah, as always, may your dice roll 20s, and you always make your saves.
Later, y'all.
Toodles!
Wash your
Remember the
fucking
bow.
hands, for God's sakes!
Touch
What's
your
wrong
face
with you
once,
people?
And then never again.